What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Talks, your only podcast for movie news, movie reviews, and more. So we got a studded lineup for you, but as always, we're brought to you by Ryman TV. My name is Ryman, and we also got our co-host Lawson, the
Hey,
art
hey,
house guy, the grumpy man, whatever you want
the
to
grumpy man. Yep,
do.
yep,
Yeah,
grumpy man. First thing in the morning.
that's right. So we've changed our
So,
recording times. You may notice that I'm a little bit croaky. I've got the C19. I don't know if YouTube doesn't
got the
like
spicy cough.
yeah, it doesn't like the word, so we'll try and avoid it. That's why I look a little bit off. I might go on some
Really?
tangents. Yeah. So I
Really? So like they'll pick up you saying the word and they'll be like, nah.
yeah, it used to be because it was such a hot topic. It also doesn't like swearing in the first 8 seconds of videos. So
The
it's
first eight
the
seconds.
yeah, so
Okay,
like
noted.
people are becoming demonetized due to videos having swearing in the first 8 seconds. It's real bizarre.
Okay.
Like even
I'll
old
hold back
videos.
for the first 8 seconds. That's fine.
We're past the 8 seconds now, so that's
Fuck.
good. So that's good to know. But we've got Summertime Rendering today, which is a Disney anime. We've got
hmm
Gunther's Millions, which is a doco miniseries on Netflix. And
hmm
I always put a H in this, but it's Cunk on Earth,
You
which is
got it.
on Netflix as well. That's because you've been at me all week to not to say it correctly. So I was
I've
like,
corrected you a couple of times. Yeah,
yeah,
my bad.
it's got no H. But looking at the old movie news, there's some absolute bangers for movie news today. So,
Okay.
can you give us the intro into movie news?
Boo! Movie news.
All right. So, as your favorite movie series, Fast and the Furious,
Oh, hell
Fast,
yeah.
yeah, Fast
Huge
and
fan. You know me.
yeah, Fast and the Furious 10 has Jason Momoa as the villain, which tears Dom's family apart.
Hmm, whatever.
Like
This is why
how,
Momoa shouldn't be the new God of War because he's doing shit like Fast and the Furious.
mate, he's gonna do everything. Like I, I'm not gonna be surprised if they end up just getting The Rock to do Kratos. Like
I'll be so upset.
at this
I'll
point
be
in
so upset.
at
Oh my God, don't hurt
whatever
me.
the rate they're going, I wouldn't be surprised. Like The Rock's in everything. He's got the build, but I don't know that
It's
he'd
not
be
about
able
the
to.
build. The Rock isn't the actor who can act like that. He's not. He doesn't have the emotional. Anyway, we're talking about Fast and Furious.
Yeah,
Great, Momoa. I'm so excited. Momoa's my favorite. I can't wait for him to be in the new Fast and Furious. I'm gonna watch it multiple times.
yeah, get excited. But
Doesn't
also,
mean anything to me. Good on him. Whatever, making
no,
money.
I thought that'd be funny for you. Also,
Yep.
you know Winnie the Pooh, the Blood and Honey. So you know the
Oh,
horror
the horror
Winnie
that's
the
coming
Pooh.
out. Yep, yep.
Yeah, the director is now eyeing up Bambi and Peter Pan for their childhood horror universe.
Okay.
So it's this is going to be a thing, isn't it? So once all the copyright goes, they're going to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, let's grab everything and make them villains or horror." I don't know.
absolutely right.
I don't know how that's going to go. Like, it's going to be too much. Like, they're just going to saturate the market with all this.
When does Blood and Honey come out?
I'm not sure when it comes out.
16th of Feb. Oh, soon.
Ah,
We can add that to the rotation.
yeah. I mean, definitely want to watch the first one. Normally, the first one's the best one of them all, and then it's
Yeah, I
just
mean, after I watch Blood and Honey, I'll be obviously more or less excited for Bambi, etc. But the character design looks pretty interesting, at least.
yeah. But look at the Grinch ones. The Grinch one's the mean one, and then they did
Yeah,
like
but
Santa. Violet Night was better than the mean one. The mean one was pretty average.
Violent Night was better.
Mm,
But Violent Night had a decent budget. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is still less than 100,000 budget,
okay.
whereas Violent Night, Violent Night budget was 20 million.
Right. That
You
makes
know,
sense.
so I'm not confident that Blood and Honey is going to be decent because horror, like as much as you know, we look at Paranormal Activity, you don't need a lot of money to make a good horror, and Saw, but the trend at the moment is all these low budget things don't have a lot of talent either.
No.
So I'm not
Also,
confident.
Paranormal Activity scared me a lot. I hated it.
Yeah,
I
fair.
hated it. But anyway, Owen Wilson uh, channels a
Okay.
Bob Ross in first trailer for Comedy Paint. So he's playing,
I just saw the thumbnail for that. What the hell?
yeah, I don't understand how they're going to get a story or a movie out of that.
Is
Like,
it a biopic?
I'm assuming it would have to be, but it says for Comedy Paint. I don't understand where or how they're going to do that. Like,
What's the what's the movie called?
for Comedy Paint.
For Comedy Paint.
Yeah, Owen Wilson. It's a wow from me, really.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very surprised they're even making it, but I was also, like you said, I'm surprised it's Owen Wilson. I
Yeah,
don't I don't hate the guy. I just I don't see him as Bob Ross in any way. But whatever, that's what actors are for.
yeah. I know. Owen Wilson's had a bit of a hit and miss sort of track record.
Paint. You're
So
right.
I guess we'll
It's,
see.
it's just called Paint. The movie's just called Paint.
Okay.
In Paint, Owen Wilson portrays Carl Nagel,
Right.
who is Vermont's #1 public television painter. So yeah, I'm guessing that was his real name.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, yeah. I mean, I'm actually somewhat interested in that.
okay.
If it's done in any sort of vein as the Weird Al, I know Weird Al is very different, but if it's done in like parody and jest, I'm keen.
Right. You'd hope so. I guess time will tell. But
Mm,
also some big confirmations by Disney. Toy Story 5, Frozen
whatever,
3, and
whatever,
uh Zootropolis 2.
whatever. Don't care about any of them.
Really?
I didn't even watch Toy Story 4.
Did you not?
No, because Toy Story 2 and 3 were the same movie. Why did I watch 4?
Oh, oh, all right.
No,
I kind of liked
I'm
4.
dirty about. Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard it's better than 3. I'm over all that stuff.
I don't know.
Maybe it's an age thing.
People say that Toy Story 3 is the perfect film.
It's the same movie. It's the same movie as number 2.
I
I
did.
will fight to the death. I will die on this hill that 2 and 3 are the exact same movie. Same plots, same plot devices, same bad guy. It's the same
Yeah,
movie.
fair. And all right, moving on. We
Am I real negative this morning, man? I am extra grumpy.
yeah, maybe that's what we come to expect.
I'm
This
known for.
this one is a little bit out there. So Will Ferrell is a dog who plots violent revenge on his owners after being abandoned in Strays. It's a new
Oh my
trailer.
god.
So he is voice acting a dog that is this little fluffy kind of dog, not a chihuahua or anything. It's like I don't even know what type of dog that would be.
What's it called?
It just I have to go into it. It just says Will
No, don't
Ferrell
worry
is a dog.
about it. Will Ferrell is a dog.
Go fetch yourself. No, it's called Strays.
Strays,
Yeah,
like the game Stray.
Strays. Yeah,
Strays with an S.
with an S. It's got Jamie Foxx
Okay.
too.
Wow. So they're just throwing a bunch of actors at another animation.
Yep. Oh no, it looks like live
Sure.
action. They're bad to the bone.
Oh, it's
Watch
live
this.
action dogs,
Yeah,
but voiced.
yeah, like cats and
Isla
dogs.
Fisher, Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx, Will Forte. Okay, it's got a lot of people I like. Randall
Mm,
Park, I'm not a fan of. Will Forte, I love. Anything he's in, I'll watch.
okay.
Okay. Go fetch yourself, strays. Yeah, righto.
It could be good. It could also be shocking. Where
Mate, bring back. We need a sequel to Cats and Dogs.
oh,
Let's go.
I'm pretty sure
That's
it
what we
did
need
get a
right now.
sequel. Pretty
Oh,
sure there was
really?
a
We
Cats
need a
and
modern
Dogs
day
too.
sequel or like a reboot with modern day animation.
Cats and Dogs too. I'm pretty confident it did. Did it?
Wow.
Cats and Dogs: The Revenge of Kitty Galore.
Didn't watch it. I didn't like it at the time, but I think now that we've come so far with live action animals and that sort of bullshit, it'd be interesting to see what's done.
Yeah, like would they just go CGI? Pretty much a full CGI dog now, or would it just
I'm
be?
curious on what they're doing with this. Is this like real dogs and then they've just used CGI for the mouths?
Don't know. Don't think I care
Yeah,
enough.
we'll soon see.
Yeah.
I'm curious to watch this to see how bad it is. Will Ferrell at the moment is not hitting, not kicking a lot of goals. Everything, most things is in fizzles or
Yeah,
okay at best.
he definitely hit his peak at Step Brothers. That was
Absolutely, that
by
whole
far,
era.
by far his best
Even
one.
though like you either love or hate that era, but
Did you ever
yeah,
see his political one? That was so bizarre.
was he a president in it?
Mm. Him and his
Yeah,
offsider were doing their
I didn't
political
actually watch it.
campaigns.
Nah, but he's known for his like George Bush impressions and stuff.
Yeah,
Sort of like how he started on SNL.
right. Yeah. So who knows? But anyway, that's enough
Sure.
movie. Told you that was like some interesting movie news. Like
Yeah, he
Gunther.
actually gave me some things I didn't know about. Stray and
Yeah,
or Strays,
yeah, it was a
whatever the other one was.
bit of a mixture. But let's go into our first item for today, which I think is going
Hmm.
to have us split in terms of what we think about it. This
Okay.
is summertime rendering,
Yep.
and this is, I guess it says stars, so I don't know who published it. I'm assuming it'd be like Hulu or someone, but in Australia it comes under Disney Plus,
Hmm.
and it is upon hearing of, I'm going to butcher a lot of names here. Upon hearing of Ushiro's death, I'm going to assume that's right.
Ushio.
Ushio's
Yep.
death. Shinpai returns to hometown of, oh god, Wa Wanmaran City on Hitamarashia, and returns with his childhood friend's family. The funeral goes.
Higatoshima.
Yep.
The island of
Imagine.
Higatoshima. Sorry.
Yeah. Imagine that's what I said. The funeral
Yep.
goes smoothly, but under the surface, something strange is brewing on the island. What mystery awaits him on the scheduled summer island? So
Hmm.
the whole premise of this is a bit of time travel with a horror thing. So
Yeah.
surprisingly, the tags are animation action drama, where I wouldn't call it those at all. I would call
No.
it mystery sci-fi with the time traveling, kind of like Groundhog Day
Yeah.
with horror aspects.
Yeah,
So
I'd say it's a thriller with a time loop. Yeah.
yeah. So our main guy, how do I say his name? Agio
Shimpai.
Shimpai. I did get it right. So
Hmm.
Shimpai
Or
is,
Shinpei. I forget.
I don't know,
One of the
whatever.
two. Pick one.
We'll call him Shim. He he is going back to his hometown. So he was adopted, wasn't he? I believe. I watched this yesterday and I was in a bit of a fever with the old word that we're not allowed to say.
I watched this twice and I'm still not confident in a lot of things that I'm going to say.
Yeah. So he was kind of taken in by this family. The family had two daughters. One, Ushiro died, which is the blonde girl,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
that's whose funeral they're going back. And then there's also, was it Minako?
Mio.
Mio? That was close.
Mio. Hmm.
Mio is also back. So he's going back. Mio greets him, and there's this weird like fan service that kept going, like in terms of they make reference to the underwear, which it
No
was
underwear. Yeah.
which is really odd and different to the entire tone that it was kind of setting.
Yeah.
But after that,
Actually, while we're there, can I mention in the first 5 minutes we get a boob joke and an underwear joke, and then never really again. Like that to me set a weird precedence. I was expecting this to be like Seven Deadly Sins, where it's just like boobs ass the whole way through. Um, yeah, it felt weird, especially after I've watched the rest. That first initial little, yeah. Anyway, just felt it was out of place.
yeah, which was odd. So Shinpai he's off. He's sort of experiencing the first day. So the first episode is the first day where he's going to the funeral, coming back, interacting with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Where after the funeral, there's a little bit of like mystery sort of building up. Like there's a little girl who can't talk when he says hello, and then
Yep.
throughout,
Who was the
like,
one who was saved? Ushio died drowning, saving this little girl, and since then the girl has like PTSD and won't speak.
yeah. And as after all this, he's sort of just out exploring the island and revisiting all the different places where we get to then experience a very massive shift in tone in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
people are being shot, and that's where we're first introduced to this like shadow. So an old bloke comes past and just randomly drops all this information at once.
Yeah, right.
So he's like, they're just
Hey
casually,
kids, here's some exposition.
yeah, like Mio and Chipai are just casually like walking along, and then this old bloke out of nowhere comes in, is like, here's all you need to know about the shadows, and then he just leaves, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay, like if you're building mystery, like it was odd, but it was
it
also
was
like,
mysterious.
yeah, he's like dumped a heap of information, and then we get the interaction with the first shadow, which is surprisingly violent. I wasn't expecting
Mm.
as
Ditto.
violent, or like, I guess the shock factor that came in,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
the lady at the start, she obviously got injured, and she's going to play a bigger role, I'm hoping, later on. We don't quite get that in the 3 episodes. We get
Yeah.
Mio in there as well, and then we also get a random gun that comes in. So this, after that experience, he then has a little bit of I guess, a fragment of like the Matrix or whatever it is. Like he starts glitching out, and he wakes back up to the start of the day, and
Yep.
that's where we sort of kick off,
Back
and
to the
that's
train or the boat.
to the boat, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where he's
Yeah, it's a boat. Sorry. Yeah, an
yeah,
island makes sense.
yeah, where he's interacting with the lady who, when he's asking to describe her, or like, have you seen her? It's like, have you seen the lady with really big boobs? And like
Yeah,
everyone
glasses
seems,
and big boobs, and everyone's like, "Oh, I know her."
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. The shift in tone is very odd. Like it
Yep.
shifts in tone consistently, but I really enjoyed the parts with the shadows. Like I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
that sort of horror aspect. So anytime there was the interactions with the shadow, like episode 2, where Mio, the shadow Mio, is standing out of the house and the sheriff is there, and like that
Yep.
whole interaction, I really enjoyed. I
Yep.
really liked the shadow. Or when he goes to the house in episode 3 with the
Mm-hmm.
old lady, and
Mm-hmm.
you get that bit more backstory of how the shadows work, and you get to see the little girl that
Yeah.
like the flash of light. Like that's a nice little subtle way to be able to bring it in. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after 3 episodes, like you haven't given us heaps of story in terms of
No.
where we're going. You've given us a little bit different aspects of this day consistently, which is like the Groundhog Day, where you
Mm-hmm.
slowly, and slowly is probably the key word, trying to give us information, different points of view.
Yep.
But
Yep.
he still need a hook in terms of the overarching story. I know by like the end of episode 3, he started to recruit a whole different people in. So there's like the guy, which I'm confused in terms of how does he all of a sudden know about the shadows? Like, is there on this island, is the shadows a consistent thing? Like, are they
Yeah,
a
I think it's
group?
just a folk tale, you know. I think everyone just sort of knows about it, just at different levels of detail. And this old man all of a sudden was an expert.
No, I mean at the end of episode 3, like his friend was like all about stopping the shadows, like the
Yeah,
guy
it did
with,
feel there was a weird shift. Like it was all mystery, 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 and then all of a sudden it was like we're gonna fight back, and then they came up with this big plan, and everyone was involved. That didn't feel as much as the show was dragging. They rushed that section. Like there should have just been a scene maybe where he sees a shadow or something, and it's like, wow, I'm convinced.
yeah,
Unless there was, and I didn't notice.
yeah. So I wasn't sure on that one. Sue, I think he's Sue Himegachi is his the bloke.
Yeah, he's not on my list. I don't know his name.
Just went into characters. So he only really made an appearance at the funeral and in episode 3, where he was like, "We're gonna fight back." But with
Oh,
the
there he is.
yeah, with the fireworks and stuff, like end of episode 3, I was curious in terms of how there was this random time warp sort of tunnel thing where
Mm-hmm.
Ushio's like talking to him about don't give up, and
Yep.
like how's
Yep.
this? You're presenting so many different aspects, but not giving any details of like how it kind of works. Like
Yeah, a big part of the problem for
I'm
sure.
I'm hoping like later episodes, like I am curious to see where this goes. Like I did enjoy it enough to be like, all right, I kind of want to know where this mystery is going to come, but
Mhm.
like I don't know, there was something missing in each episode. There just wasn't enough to be
Yeah.
like, where's it all going?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I watched this twice. The first time I watched it, admittedly, it was on my phone a little bit. I was texting. I was sort of distracted because it wasn't really hooking me in. Yeah. So, like I said, I had to watch this a couple of times. The first time I watched it, admittedly, I was on my phone and a bit distracted. So I thought, oh, I didn't I didn't pick anything up because I was distracted or wasn't watching or whatever. But the second time I watched it again, I still felt like nothing happened, but I was just getting thrown information the entire time. Um, they rushed certain things, but not others. And after 3 episodes, I still felt like I had no fucking idea what was happening. I've read online that people really like this, has some really good reviews, and people are saying it's like how anime thriller is done. Like it needs to be. This is perfect. And blah blah blah. I mean, people aren't always right, but I mean, the general consensus is this is pretty good. But I couldn't get into it. I did not find it interesting enough. Like I said, the shadow stuff's cool. The idea of like body snatchers and doppelgangers and all that sort of stuff. Like I love those sorts of stories, even though they're sort of overdone. I think they can be really intimidating and kind of spooky because I can not relate, but like imagine those you love, you can't trust if they're them or not. But yeah, I couldn't get around this.
Right.
Um,
Do you think maybe these people are judging it obviously after the first season rather than the first 3 episodes?
yeah, yeah, that's sort of my point. I bet that if I watched more, I'd get a lot more answers, obviously, and be like, oh wow, that's interesting and that's cool. But I think the 3 episodes, that's why we watched three. Three to me is the perfect amount because by the end of episode 3, you should be answering some questions and asking some more. And at the end of episode 3 here, I was just asking more and more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it wasn't an anime that I necessarily enjoyed as much as I love thriller and I love like psychological mindfuckery and things like that. This is probably an anime that I should enjoy, but didn't like the pacing and I couldn't get around it.
Yeah, that's fair. What
I
would you give
tried.
it then?
Uh, I mean, it's so hard. I feel like I shouldn't rate it this early. I feel like I need to watch more. But after 3 episodes, it's like a 1.5, maybe a 2. The
Okay.
concepts are really cool. Um, like I said, the whole body snatchers idea and whatever, I like that. And like maybe a little bit of romance here and there. Like there was obviously a bit of romance they're trying to build between Shinpei and Mio.
Mm-hmm.
But and that was cute. But the rest, it was just information overload. And because they're repeating the same day, like yeah, it's cool. Again, I love time travel stuff, and I really enjoyed episode 2 when he's like, "Oh wow, this is different to last time," and he's sort of piecing things together. Um, but yeah, not enough happened. It wasn't enough progress and not enough questions answered in the 3
Right.
that we watched.
Yeah.
So straight away, it's like a 1.5.
Okay. Yeah. I enjoyed it in terms of I thought the shadows were intriguing enough to me for me that I wanted to like know more. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably gonna watch more of this and just to see how it unfolds, like the mystery behind it, which is surprising because not heaps happened, but
Yeah,
how knowing that heaps of people were different, like well, possessed by the shadows. And I kind of want to see how and why the blonde girl is able to like time travel or
mm,
communicate and is standing
mm-hmm.
in the water with the fireworks. Like for me, I would recommend it. So it's like a 3. Be like,
Okay,
give it a look. There's enough interesting things happening. But yeah, I do agree. Like it's just information dump and like it seems very convenient and they'll kind of like, how do we sort of progress the story or give the viewer enough information? Like they
yeah,
they set that tone right at the start with the old bloke, as we said before, he just pops out of nowhere.
yeah,
Here you go, and then he walks off.
mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, it's what 15 episodes for the first season. I think I'm just looking at it now. Season 1 has I know 20 it has 25.
Yeah, I thought it was more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's not it's not too bad. That's pretty consumable.
yeah.
But
That's
yeah, you tell me. You go watch it. I'd love to know. I'd love to know the point where you're like, it gets really good at this episode.
okay.
Then I'll go
Yeah.
watch until then.
Well,
But
yeah. Looking at the episode reviews, like the first one got 8.3, second got 8. The third one got 7, so the third one was the
yeah, I was gonna
weakest.
say third's probably lower.
And then 8.5, 8.6, 8.2,
Okay, so I watch a
8.6,
little bit more. I'll probably be entertained.
probably
Okay.
8.7. Episode 12 gets a 9.3. Interesting.
Okay, so you should make it to 12. Look,
I
if I
think,
get time and I think about it, but I haven't watched the rest of fucking Chainsaw Man and shit yet. Like, I don't
yeah.
watch that before I watch this.
I mean, I think there's a number of episodes with the nines. I think the lowest is a 7.7. So
Okay, so it's a slow burn. We
yeah,
just gotta take our time to get into the goodness. All right.
which
Well,
is
then it's
okay.
probably a pretty unfair review, but
Ah,
3 episodes the rule. That's what we've
that's
always done.
yeah. I think that's fair. So I guess
Mm,
that balances out. Mm.
yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the richest dog ever, to Gunther's Millions. So this is only a 4 episode mini doco series on Netflix. So we
Mhm.
watched the first 2. Normally it's the 3, but we watched half of them.
Half makes
And
sense, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of glad we did. So the
Okay.
first episode is quite interesting. Like the story is so bizarre in terms of
Yeah.
this dog has what 158 billion dollars or some stupid like
80
158.
million. I thought it was 80 million.
Yeah, I don't know. It's some ludicrous amount of money.
Yeah.
So the dog was he's named Gunther, and the countess who had all this money, which gets revealed later why she had all this money, had a
hmm
son named Gunther who dies, and then she left
hmm
all the money to her dog Gunther. So he essentially has this trust fund. I don't know that like how that is legal or like
Right.
I don't understand how it works in the law.
Yeah.
But this is all based in was it Italy, wasn't it? Or I believe it was.
Yeah. The story starts in Italy and Germany.
Yeah,
Um, and then they moved to Miami.
that's right. Yeah. So Gunther is entrusted to Maurizio. Oh, I can't even remember the rest of his name.
Mian, Mian. I forget if it's pronounced Mian or Mayan, but yeah, Maurizio, who is the daughter of the Countess's best friend.
Yeah,
Sorry, daughter, son. Sorry, the
son.
son of what the hell, daughter? The son of he. But we then find out that it was actually the Countess wasn't the rich one. It was his mum, who was the pharmaceutical company, and
Yeah,
that the Countess was like a way of them avoiding taxes and like loopholes and stuff in order to transfer this money. So the money actually belongs to Maurizio's bloodline, not Gunther's, and that's sort of like the weird part, and that they had to navigate with the whole tax bullshit and everything.
wait, that's not the weird part at all.
It is a lot of weird parts, I should say. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go on.
so with that backstory, you now know how Gunther has his millions. I'll go. Let's do this in points. Weird point number one: a dog can own a dog can own a trust fund, which for
Yeah.
me legally, I don't know how that's even possible. And he's
Yeah.
able to buy property. He ends up buying Madonna's house.
Yep.
I don't know how can a dog own property.
I know.
I guess
Even the lawyer was like, I can't say what I actually think.
yeah.
If you can't feel me saying my actual thoughts. Like he doesn't think it's possible, but it's his job. He made it work. It's
Yeah.
fucked.
And like the massive check that they had, I know like the checks are sometimes just for show, but it was like signed with a paw print. Like, how's that even legally binding? Like, that could be
Yeah.
any dog's paw print, but whatever. Weird fact number 2, like when
I'm
he
pretty
has
sure.
his
Sorry, just while we're there. Sorry. I'm pretty sure that Maurizio's name's on everything. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure his name's on the house and his name's on cars and his like everything is Maurizio.
yeah, but all right. I'm assuming it is, but I still don't know how the dog can have a trust fund.
I
And
don't know.
when Gunther has his personal chef, the chef is like cooking him this massive steak. But
Hmm.
I'm pretty confident onions are really bad for dogs.
Yeah, onions and
And
garlic.
yeah, and it was like this full gourmet like meal, and it was like heaps of onions, heaps of whatever.
Yeah,
It's like,
which I found weird.
surely you know that also you shouldn't give them cooked bones as well.
But maybe we're wrong. I mean,
Maybe.
he's paid thousands to cook for a dog, the world's richest dog. Would he know better?
I feel like he would have just signed on and been like, I'm going to make gourmet food, but
Just
whatever.
like that's one of my notes is we'll get to that later, I guess. But it's phenomenal how many people were like, I'm gonna take advantage of this.
Oh yeah, wouldn't you if you were offered like a couple of $1 million just to hang around with this dog?
Yeah,
I'd be like, no worries, like that's pretty cruisy.
yeah,
But
legit.
weird point number three. I'm gonna go in terms of how this is actually sort of set out. So as Gunther's whole thing unfolds, this documentary is the first part is telling you just about Gunther's sort of way he got his money. And then episode two changes its entire focus. Instead of it
Hmm.
being about Gunther, it just leaves Gunther alone. And the focus isn't on Gunther anymore. It's about the Gunther's Millions or whatever they're called. They tried to make this boy band sort of
Yeah.
group of five where they needed to have the Gunther look. So the girls had to look like Pamela Anderson, they actually said, and the boys needed to like be muscular, etc., and need to have this image. But there always had to be five. They signed on. They wanted them to be like this new singing dance troupe, and they
Hmm.
hired this random dancer bloke to come in, and he was like, "Well, you kind of need to have talent as well. You just can't be good looking." So
Yeah.
like he's like, these guys can't dance, they can't sing. And they seem to try and push, like obviously in Australia, I hadn't actually heard about this story whatsoever. So all of this was really new to me. But I'm assuming in Italy and Germany and stuff, this would be quite well-known story about old Gunther.
Hmm.
But it randomly turned into a story about people abusing money to create this like sex orgy sort of group.
Fucking cult.
Yeah, so it just completely changed focus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like they had scientists there that were like social experimenting and recording and tracking all these people. And they were like asking
Hmm.
questions about how often they're having sex. Like it was just really bizarre in terms of
And then we learn
where they're
they're not even
going.
scientists.
No.
Like they have no science degrees at all. They were just guys in a
Just,
room with like they're wearing lab coats and had clipboards, but they weren't actually scientists. Oh,
no.
it's so weird.
The whole thing's weird, but I didn't like the way they shot this documentary. I felt like lots of the scenes
Okay.
were drawn out. I felt like the pacing was odd. Like I feel like both of these episodes probably could have been in one episode in
Oh,
terms of
interesting.
how they sort of had it. Like I felt
Hmm.
like the 43-minute per episode was a little bit too long. Like I feel like
You're right.
you could have cut a few of that down because you weren't really expanding on a lot of things. It was like it just felt like you give me a little bit of information and then focusing and changing the entire aspect of this documentary. I just
Okay.
wasn't
Yeah, I didn't see that. I felt after the two episodes, I said to you, "Do you want to watch more?" And you said you haven't got there yet. So I was like, "Wait." I was keen to watch all four. What like one after the other.
okay.
I found it paced quite well. I feel like the information delivery was what I needed. Especially once we got the introduction of the Burgundians, which is the name of the group, the dance group, or whatever the fucking whatever they were, the hot young people.
Yeah.
Once it moved into that like cultish realm, I was so entertained and I was enthralled with the story. It's honestly so fucking ridiculous.
It's a
It's this
bizarre
one
story.
guy. It's as I said before, it's phenomenal watching this. How many people you can just see that moment where they're like, "Wow, I could totally take advantage of the situation." One of the guys they interviewed was like one of he was one of the Burgundians, but he was one of like the instigators. And he was the one who like had a lot of friends who were models and actors and whatever. And interviewing him, it's funny how much he almost defended his actions. And at one point, they asked him like, sounds kind of like a cult. And he's like, ha ha ha, like he had this fake laugh, and he's like, that's funny, a cult, that's funny. Like his yeah, the reactions are real strange, and I just found the whole story so entertaining because it's just what the fuck. Like this started with this trust fund. Some people die. This dog gets millions of dollars, and all of a sudden there's this fucking sex cult with these people being studied, and the justification for the studying in air quotes was because the original Gunther, the son, because he died to, I'm pretty sure it was suicide, like unhappiness, they kept saying. Then therefore the Gunther's millions as part of the whatever they call it, the description of what happened after the death. What do they call that? The trust or whatever it is.
Yep.
But part of that in the clause was they must research happiness. So the way they research happiness is not to fund actual scientists and psychologists, but instead they get a bunch of young people in a house, provide everything for them, where they're in like the world's happiest environment, and then study the happiness with non-real scientists. Like it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, but they got away with it. And I'm so curious to know what happens in the next 2 episodes and when it all starts crashing down. Because there's no way that this is still happening. Obviously, like this was early 2000s or some shit.
Yeah, I would have liked to see a bit of Madonna's reaction of like a dog buying her house.
Yeah, initially, what? Oh, they were looking at somebody else's house first that they nearly bought instead. I forgot who it was. Yeah, because they wanted a house with prestige. They wanted a house that was a famous house, so they chose Madonna's house just because Madonna lived in it.
Yep.
They had another one initially, but it was way bigger, and they're like, "No, it's too big."
Yeah,
But yeah, it's fucked.
the whole story's absolutely bonkers.
Or how's the song? Do you remember the song that before they had the whole cult house, they released I think it was the 90s, they released a song that was like some pop song and the dog was barking in it. Remember that?
Not really.
Oh dude, it was so bad. It was like the epitome of terrible 90s music.
I mean, I can't imagine it'd be good. Like I saw them try and dance, and
Yeah.
it wasn't great.
Yeah. Another part I really laughed at was there's a scene where Maurizio has moved to America and he's being interviewed on live TV, and the interviewers who are in Italy have his mum with them, and his mum's a bit of a fucking hard ass, and she's just roasting him on live TV. Like she's like, "Your hair's shit," and like calling him out for his dodgy clothes, and he looks like an old man. And she's like this little old woman, and she's just roasting him on live TV. It was fucking sick.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It's an absolute weird experience, but
It was cooked.
yeah. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm keen for more.
Okay.
I'm like a 4 on this.
Wow.
I really had a fun time. It's such a bizarre story that I think people should watch it. Like at least watch the first two, and sort of go from there. If you did enjoy the first two, you probably won't enjoy the rest because episode 2 is really where they kick things into ridiculous gear. Watch the first two if you like them. Then I can't say watch the rest because I haven't seen them myself, but I had a really fun time. I think that um, the story is ridiculous enough for the pacing. I thought it was all told pretty well. Um, yeah, good
Yeah.
time. 4.
Yeah. I'd look this because the story is so ridiculous. I have to give it a 3 because like I feel like people would enjoy the absolutely ridiculousness of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would
Mm-hmm.
be worth it. So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Yep.
Where I don't know the way it's presented to me, I felt like it was just needed to be presented a little bit quicker. Like there's some
Okay.
parts that could have been cut out. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
a few too many random, like I guess, expose sort of shots, like when he's presenting the food and stuff. Like it was just
Okay.
these
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that.
like these random stuff where they don't focus on Gunther that much, even though Gunther's got the money. It was like, here's we're going to build up this dog and where we're going in episode 1, and then it's like, here's with the sex cult, where the sex cult stuff is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it was like I was expecting more of like how this dog got the trust fund and how these people were essentially looking after this dog or using its money to be able to.
We got that. We got enough of
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. I
It's
just
not
want
about Gunther, it's about his millions.
yeah, I don't know. And how do they get away with like using the millions? So like obviously he's got the money and Maurizio's there like signing checks and stuff. But
Yeah.
where does that all go? I guess that'll come hopefully in the next 2 episodes, and it'll tell the entire story. So it's a 3, I reckon. Just
Okay.
to be fair, to it's an interesting story. It's definitely worth a watch to see where this all goes.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch the rest like today. I had
Yeah.
a really fun time. So bizarre. I am so excited for this. I really like as I watched this. I only watched this last night. And as I was watching it, I'm thinking, fuck, I wonder what Ryman's gonna think. So I'm really, really keen to hear your input. This is Cunk on Earth. It is I'll read out the IMDb description first, as always. Follows Philomena Cunk as she comically tells the story of our greatest inventions and asks experts hard-hitting questions about humanity's progress. So it's a documentary comedy, which is a strange but refreshing sort of new way of presenting information. Like this was a factual retelling of the history of the human race. If you ever watched, there's a YouTube video, it goes for like 20 minutes, called The History of the Entire World, I guess. One of my favorite videos. That this is like an extended edition of that in a way. So the first episode goes straight into like, cavemen and sort of the birth of humans up to the point of religion. Second episode is all about religion and the Crusades, and mainly about sort of the Quran versus the Bible, sort of what she's posing in a comedic way. And then the third is the Renaissance and sort of all that, the bright ages as opposed to the dark ages, which is a running joke in that point. Philomena Cunk is played by a woman, Diane Morgan, who's a comedian. And I just want to fucking say, she is one of my favorite characters I have seen in anything in so long. I've watched her stand up, and it's not that funny to me. I don't really like. I couldn't connect, and I mean, she has a lot of like women's humor and English humor and that sort of stuff. But this character is so fucking perfect and so like just genuinely effortlessly funny. But yeah, I want to just sort of. I want to let you talk for a bit. I've already introduced it. I wanted to just sort of mention her and the character. But yeah, the show is a documentary retelling of human history, but in a comedic way. She's very deadpan. She interviews a lot of experts. She comes across like an absolute idiot, and she has no shame, and it's so impressive. I'm way too excited to hear what you think, so I'm going to stop talking. Go.
All right. So I obviously came into this knowing absolutely nothing. I thought this was just going to be a random documentary, but you presented it into this awkward comedy, which she does it really well. Like I got to say, the awkward comedy, I haven't really experienced that since like, what is it? More, it's Sunny in Philadelphia, whatever that show's called.
Yep. Always Sunny. Yep.
Always Sunny, and also even In Betweeners at times is like that awkward comedy. So like it presents really well in terms of those comedy aspects or comedy aspects that she's getting across. And where it kind of shines is she's presenting your sort of, you already know the history if you've obviously I
Mhm.
don't know, if you went through the schooling system,
Yeah.
you've done these so many times, but it's very interesting to see her humor in there. Like there's
Mhm.
one, she talks about the Roman Empire and she classifies it against the Star Wars Empire,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
She's
she's
like
like,
the biggest empire, Star Wars, but also Rome.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
unfortunately, today is about Rome. So
yeah,
like it's this majority of the comedy hits. Like I think there was probably one where the cross, where she does the cross and she forgets the book. I was like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch with the comedy
yeah. But
there.
that's amazing writing to me. Like the comedy, yeah, it's not that funny of a joke. She has to go from the joke there is she's carrying a cross and a Bible, and she walks, air quotes, from Italy to Ireland. Or no, I forget. It doesn't matter. Across the world, and then where's the book? She has to go back and then like. But that's not a funny joke. But I think the forethought, like they had to plan that across the world. That to me is also a really good writing moment.
Yeah, I don't
Anyway,
know. I felt like
anyway, I
that was
fucking love this. Keep going.
but for me, that was probably the weakest of the jokes. But
Sure.
where it really sort of shined for me was when she was interviewing the experts.
Yeah.
So
So funny.
majority of the experts were like sort of feel like they were humoring her, like they were like actually still holding their professionalism. But there
Yeah.
was one guy where you could see he was like, "You're an absolute moron." Like he wanted to go
Which guy was that?
it was one of the taller, slimmer blokes with the grey hair. I think he
Was he the
was.
one
I think he
who,
was in
when
the
they
roaming
interviewed?
one.
Yeah, when they interview, was he the one where they interviewed? They got him to play a game about Pompeii and whether they invented it or reinvented it.
Yeah, and you can
Was that
see,
him? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I thought, yeah, because you're right. As he's talking, he's like, yep, he's like giving real short answers. Like he was so done.
yeah, he was getting so grumpy.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how many outtakes they had with this. Like,
Mm,
would would she be able to hold it together? Like
yeah.
with her deadpan comedy, like she does it really well. I'm just wondering. I didn't know
I
she.
reckon she would. I think she's a
Okay,
professional. I couldn't imagine she would break character. I wonder at what point and how far into the interviews do a lot of the people go, is this a joke? Because
yeah,
like there are sometimes there's one moment. Okay, I'll tell two, and I think there's a difference between. There's one where she's interviewing a woman. I forget why or what for or whatever. But she starts by saying, "I always feel like when I'm talking to these people, I come across as really stupid." And then she says something really stupid, and the other woman is like trying to dance around, not making her feel stupid. And then Kunk's face, like she looks visibly upset at how dumb she feels, and like that awkwardness is so great there. But other people, she will just sort of ask these over the top questions, and they sort of feel a little bit like you can sort of tell that they're a little bit confused and a little bit like this has to be a joke, but also the fact that this is a BBC connection. All people would know that they're coming from BBC to interview. I feel like there's a level of I need to stay professional here. And there's one
true.
bloke who, when he talks, he's so boring and he's such a typical white man in the industry. Like he thinks is so fucking professional and interesting. Um, but every time he talked and she would say something really dumb, he would like try to spin it into a positive and say, "Oh, you've reached a really good point there," and then mansplain something. And it's such an interesting character study. It's one of those like intrusive thoughts. What if I interviewed someone like a fucking idiot? How would they
Yeah,
react? It's so lovely and fun to watch it.
I reckon they did well with like her even costume design. Like she's presenting in a suit, like she
Yes.
looks professional. Where it
Yeah.
reminded me a little bit of Ali G. Do you know how like Ali G
Yeah.
goes on and does it?
I I wrote it reminds me of Borat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like I guess
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't
Same
get.
thing.
I don't know. Borat came across as a muppet, but that was the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
Where she still presents like reasonably well. Like there's moments where she's like really presenting the history, and then she'll drop that deadpan joke in there, like it'll do that
Yeah.
twist where it's like build you
Yeah.
up. Where kind of Ali G did that as well, but Ali
You're right.
G obviously was presented as a like the tracksuit, etc. Like he didn't bring off the professionalism
Yeah.
that she's sort of doing, which I think really plays into the setup, especially when they're interviewing the professionals.
Mhm.
So like
Yeah, I think
her,
when I said reminds me of Borat, it's more like, yeah, Ali G, Sacha Baron Cohen, Bruno, that whole, you know, the interview, but pretending it's a real interview, but then throwing people off guard with ridiculous questions. Like, that's what it reminds me of,
yeah,
definitely. And that I love them.
yeah, I feel like this is probably going to get some people off in terms of
Yeah, okay.
like the comedy, and if you're actually tuning in for like I guess documentary that you've seen, like imagine coming into this and going, I'm here for the history facts, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's like you presented just this is
But
absolute.
straight away, you'd know. Like, I feel like in the first opening monologue, you'd know, okay, this is a comedy. Like,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
if you're intellectual.
yeah. It also reminded me a bit of the Horrible Histories, like the ABC sort of show.
Okay.
In
Which
terms,
she's holding a book off at one point, I think.
maybe they might make
Kind of
reference to
funny.
it. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It does remind me of that, where I wouldn't have minded if they actually went more into the history side and like just let her actually go from that full run of that history, because I felt like it was a little bit short for the episode, like for the
Oh,
history.
like you wished it was an hour long rather than half an hour, so
Yeah,
you could get
like
more history. Yeah, interesting.
yeah, because I would like to see their, I don't know, view on it in terms of the full sort of rundown history, but I don't know they'll be able
Yeah,
to keep up the jokes for a full
yeah.
hour.
I think pacing an hour is more difficult. But that being said, this is only 5 episodes, half an hour long each. At the end of every episode, I'm like, oh man, I'm already finished. Like I'm gonna want more at the end of this, and
Yeah,
there's no way they're gonna be able to make more because this is all over social media, this is all over TikTok. Um, she's pointing out, especially in the religion episode, she's pointing out so many um ridiculous history inconsistencies in the way humans behave, and she'd be putting a lot of people off guard. I'm so sure they'll be sharing this amongst scholars as well. There's no way they could do more of this. Just like they could never do another Borat, because as soon as you walk into an interview room with Philomena Cunk, you're gonna be like, "Oh, it's you. Oh, fuck!" And then the whole thing's ruined.
yeah. Who was the Chasers as well? They were like
Yep,
the Australian version in terms of they'd
yep,
go in and
yep.
then they got too famous, so
Uh,
like a
uh.
lot of their stuff they couldn't do anymore. But I really laughed at the religion one where she was pushing one of the what's it called? One of the professors, and they're like, "Is Jesus the first person for cancel culture?" And they're like,
Oh no, shit.
I just need you to say this for the soundbite." I can't
She
believe they
says
did it.
no. She's like no, and then yeah, and then she goes, sorry, go. I'm so fucking yep,
Yeah, and then she was like, "Can you just say it to the camera because we need it for the sound
yep,
bites?" And she
yep,
did it. You've
yeah.
just you just disagreed with her point, but then you've done it.
And then look
What?
straight down the camera, deadpan face. You could say Jesus Christ was the first cancel culture, what a victim of cancel culture. Oh my god, dude, that was
Like,
so funny. Ev and I are like hissing ourselves at that.
like, has this show like hurt some of these professors in terms of
Probably
like their
it
career
ruined some
wise?
credibility because, and that's the hard thing is we're presented with this from our perspective that this is such a comedy and obviously shit. Um, shit in like she's a shit interviewer. But I reckon if you didn't know who she was and she walked in her suit, everyone else in the crew actually professional, set up all these like really expensive lights and stuff at BBC, they got money. You would fall for it, and especially initially, you would second guess everything. I think, and everyone watches it from their perspective, like all these scholars and stuff. Like, how do you believe that? You
Yeah,
would.
yeah,
That's the point.
yeah. They did really well, and I was looking
So
at
fucking funny.
before. Apparently, she's got a number of TV miniseries which I guess
Yeah.
because they were based in the UK. So
Yeah.
there's Cunk on Britain.
Hmm.
So it's 6 episodes. There's Cunk and Other Humans on 2019,
Yeah.
and Cunk on Shakespeare as well. So
Yep. Yep. I've seen before this came out, there must have been a resurgence because this was coming out on Netflix. But I was seeing heaps of her stuff on TikTok. Like I've been a fan of Philomena Cunk through TikTok for probably, I don't know, 4 months.
okay,
Um, yeah. So I've seen little bits, but only bits and pieces. Whereas this is the first time I've actually watched the whole thing start to finish. And like initially, I was hissing myself for every joke. Then there was a point where I was sort of just like giggling here and there, and then I started losing it again. Like they, it's almost like the comedy is paced well. They don't beat an awkward horse and then beat a, I don't know, an irony horse and then beat a satire horse. Like they don't just repeat the same jokes in elements. Like there are repeating jokes. I'll get to
oh
pump up
yes,
the
there
jam in
is.
a second. But they're also um they're smart in their pacing. There are, like I said, there are a lot of times that the jokes, if you sat down and wrote out the jokes in this, yes, there's probably some jokes that they make multiple times, and a lot of them have the same themes and references, but it's cleverly crafted. I really think the writers have done a beautiful job. Pump Up the Jam is fucking hilarious. So every episode, for those who haven't seen it yet, they they reference something to do with Pump Up the Jam. They're always like, which is the same year that Pump Up the Jam was number one, or they have some sort of way of referencing it. And
Yeah,
they play like the first minute of Pump Up the Jam. It makes me laugh every time.
yeah. It was like even some of the connections to it are like really odd, but just
Yeah,
because they've made a consistent connection to it, like the religious one, it was some event, and it was like that's 400 and something years before
before, yeah.
Pump Up the Jam. Like, why did they pick that song? Like, it's such a odd reference to pick.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, like, that's why it's such a perfect song, because when the show is so deadpan and presented so seriously, like there's no one's laughing the entire thing. And then that song, which is like such an opposite sort of energy, it's funny. Episode 2 and 3, when they do it, they put down some subtitles, and it's things like "Pop Up the Jam" was written by blah 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 blah, and it was this and that. Like some of them are factual to the song, but then in
Okay.
episode 3, when they do it, the text at the bottom at one point is like, in 1962, a train crashed in Brooklyn and killed 60 people. Like,
No, I didn't even pick that up.
oh, you didn't? Oh
No.
shit! It was so funny. I
Yeah,
I
right.
cacked it. I was like, every time that happened, I was so excited. Just
All
dancing
right.
along.
It's
Yeah,
just, yeah, it's definitely a good time. Like, I was pleasantly surprised with it, but I would have liked it a little bit more. Like, I would have liked them to actually explore a little bit more of the actual histories.
history
Like,
stuff.
could
Sure.
you imagine like using this as a kind of a teaching sort of thing? Like, if you were
Of course you wouldn't.
no, but it would be more. It'd be more interesting than the standard documentaries. Like, it'd be more engaging if you had.
Definitely. Oh, heaps more engaging. There's a moment, speaking of like, I was thinking of reasons why I wouldn't show it, and she says fuck quite often.
Yeah.
There's a moment, and there's a few moments actually where you can tell it's ad lib, because there's a back and forth between her and the interviewer where she's not just remembering a script, she's having to think of new things to say or whatever. And there's a moment where she asks a question, the person replies, and she's like, "Oh, are you not the expert on whatever it was?" And then she turns to her crew and she's like, "Well, this is fucking awful." It was such like a deadpan. My okay, really quick. My favorite moment wasn't really a comedy moment, but there's a scene where she's talking about castles, and she's inside an old castle, and she starts this monologue, and it goes for a couple minutes. She starts this monologue where she's like describing what this room would have been used for, and she says, "This is my castle." She's like, "This is a dining hall. There's pig here." And she walks around from place to place in the room and starts like interact with objects. It becomes like a bit of a mime telling a story. And we get all these like diegetic sounds coming in of, the fireplace and the jester bouncing around in the corner. And it was, my D&D brain was popping off. But even like from a creative perspective, it was really, really impressive. She monologues this entire thing for like 2-3 minutes has all these rises and falls in energy. It ends with like a denouement as well. Like she's a little bit at the moment at the end where she's like, and life goes back to this and whatever. Um, it was and all the sound stuff. It was fucking really really impressive. That little scene, like wow, there's so much craft in that. It's not just irony, irony, irony. That little scene made me appreciate so much more about this show.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's definitely a good. It's definitely a good time.
That's great.
So what is there? There's 5 episodes, isn't there?
Yeah, that's all. So
Yeah,
2 more.
yeah. I definitely will watch the next 2
Yeah, I'm
because
watching them tonight, today.
yeah, it was good fun. But for me, it'd be a 4, like a 4, a solid 4. Like I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I wanted more, but I think that's the beauty of, I guess, even majority of UK's sort of like, I don't know, episode sort of thing is
Yeah, how to do things. Yeah.
they don't overplay it. Like they always
Mhm.
want you leaving more. Like in betweeners, like
Definitely.
they give you enough that it's really good quality, it's really
Mhm.
fun, but they don't
Mhm.
like run a season of 25 episodes where you're like,
Yeah. For
probably
9
hard.
seasons long.
Yeah,
And they're repeating jokes and repeating relationships and yeah,
yeah. So
totally.
I think it's well paced, it's good fun,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I had a fucking amazing time. The next episode is industrial period, industrial revolution,
Yeah.
and then the website after that is about the world wars. And
I
I'm go on.
I would like a history buff. So like our friend Grads is a big history buff. I would like to see their perspective
Hmm.
on this. Like we're not overly big history guys. Well, I don't know, you might be, but I'm not.
Not deeply, but I understood most
Yeah, yeah,
here.
but like those that love the core history and will like watch
Yes.
documentaries on histories and stuff. If you watch
Yep.
this, would you still get the same enjoyment? Like, would you be able
Definitely.
to?
More.
Would you be able to detach yourself from it though? Like those people would be like, oh no, this is just making mockery of it, or would they be like, oh, this is really
No.
fun with?
No,
All
I
right.
think the parts that oh no, not to I'm not poo-pooing them. I reckon because the parts that I didn't enjoy, or the parts that I was a little bit less entertained, were the parts that I didn't know about. So there's a moment where she's talking about the colonization of North America. Um, and she's obviously making ironic jokes here and there, but I didn't understand the jokes because I don't know the history of America, or like I don't care about the history of America. Um, the only joke I laughed at was she was like talking about the forefathers, Washington and whatever, and she says, and these guys were admired for years, unless you were from outside the US, and then they're just okay. Like that was the only part I laughed at. Um, and yeah, I feel like if you know more about history, you're gonna find more of this funny because a lot of what she does is she pokes fun at like stupid behavior in history. She pokes fun at humans for dumb shit like the Crusades were so ridiculous, like having to attack another country who were just living because they followed a different false religion. Um, and we know that now, but the way she points it out, like I honestly feel like the only part you might be offended by is maybe the religion part. If you're like a devout Christian and she starts poking fun at Christianity, then that would hurt. But she even says, um, when she's smashing on the Bible, she's like, "Don't worry, I'll be doing the Quran soon." Like she even points out, like, I'm going to be attacking both sides here. Um, yeah, personally, I think you'll get more out of it if you're a
Okay.
history buff. But you're right. I'd love to know what Grads thinks of it. I reckon he's going to fucking love this. We're going to tell him about it ASAP.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just was interested to see someone who's a history buff and their
Yeah,
take on
fair.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what would you give it?
For what it is, for a comedy documentary that is satire and irony, it is perfection. It is 100% a 5 in my eyes.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's the best documentary I've ever seen. I'm not saying it's the best comedy I've ever seen, but I've never seen this done as well. Only, like I mentioned, Sacha Baron Cohen stuff. And I find all of those a 5, even Bruno, the stuff that isn't as successful. Um, I love human interactions. I love those what ifs of like, what if I said this and what if I said that? And people being off guard, like just real people, genuine reactions, and that's what I find these interviews and stuff so interesting. This is exactly my kind of comedy. For me, it's a 5. It's it's perfect. I'm gonna watch this many, many times. I'm gonna be reciting it for years to come. This is now a part of me for sure.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's good. So we've got another lineup for you guys next week's, which is a little bit of
Sorry, normally it's like started lineup, whatever lineup. We just have a lineup this time.
It's a different mix. It's
a good mix.
So Valentine's Day is coming up on the 14th, which is the Tuesday. So if you also want to watch me play a dating sim, which Lawson's
say the same thing.
Check that out. Come on Twitch on Tuesday. So we kick off at 7:45 Australian Central Standard Time. And I bought
him a game.
Yeah, I have no idea what this game is.
Yep.
So your guess is as good as mine. But Your Place or Mine, which is Netflix's newest, I guess, rom-com, and it's just in time for Valentine's Day, so I'm sure it'll probably be in the top 10 pretty soon, if it's not already. But
I didn't realize it was Netflix either. That's good.
Yeah, so that is Reese Witherspoon and also Ashton Kutcher. So some solid acting lineup. Then we have M. Night Shyamalan's new one, which is Knock at the Cabin. So hearing good things, which I don't know. I'll sort of judge it as we watch it, because M. Night has been hit and miss, mostly miss. But
people initially liked After Earth too.
Okay. I mean,
that was
The Village got pretty good reviews to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, they pumped it, and then you actually watched it and it was shocking.
Signs as well.
I liked Signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like elements of it, but I don't think it's a good movie.
Yeah,
the ending is dumb as hell.
Well,
why would aliens come to a planet that is 70% water if they die from water?
Maybe they didn't know.
Sorry. It's a personal thing at this point.
Yeah. And also Shrinking, which is, was this one? This one you're pretty pumped about.
It's Jason Segel and Harrison Ford, and it's like a father-son comedy. But it's supposedly like a really heartwarming and genuine story. And I'm loving what Jason Segel's been doing recently. He was in a horror thriller like last year where he like killed someone as like this homeless guy, and there's a whole story there. And he was in this movie about where they proved the afterlife. And everyone kills himself because they're like, well, there's an afterlife. And he was in that, and it's like this whole human, like Jason Segel since How I Met Your Mother has become such a heartwarming and interesting storyteller. I am excited for this for sure.
Okay, yeah, I definitely think he was originally struggling to get out of that sort of role of like
definitely.
What would you call it, like rom-com after Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Like,
even How
he's such a lovable guy. So he plays, in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, he plays a very similar character. He's warming. He's likable, very likable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he suits rom-coms.
Yeah, so definitely. But yeah, we'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's our lineup. That's why it wasn't a star-studded lineup. It's a different lineup.
It's a well-balanced lineup. It's like a hearty meal. It's got a bit of everything.
Nourishing, if you will.
Nourishing
lineup. But yeah, but as you know, if you got any contacts with Under Armour, please let them know. I know they.
We tried.
Yeah, we tried. We actually did try and contact them, but they don't sponsor outside the US. So maybe.
Well, Jimmy tried. Shout outs to Jimmy. Love you.
Maybe try and convince them to sponsor outside the US. Sponsor in Australia. One. Yeah. So. But yeah, if you also want some Rhyme and TV merch, we can make some movie merch as well. So yeah, check that out. Put that in the show notes. And yeah, if you want to make your friends' day better, day worse,
tell your friends.
Tell all your friends.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, because you know what? Tell them all. And
Because you know what? Just tell them.
yeah. Uh, without further ado, we shall
Perfect.
see you guys next week. Bye.
You love yous.